Well, Season 2 of the virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship returns, and what's more, within the Garden of England. The Brands Hatch circuit, which is just over 1.2 miles long in its Indy variation, hosts the second of the season. Once again, it is the returning Alex Goldschmidt and Phil Kinch, your official commentators for this series. Mr. Kinch, good evening. Long time waiting, and finally VMO is back.
Good evening, Mr. Goldschmidt. I feel like my birthdays and Christmases have come together. Finally, we can go and do some racing and some touring car racing. And not just that, we can talk about it again as well. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, expect that Phil's going to be rather excitable all the way through season 2. And we've knocked the first round a couple of weeks ago at Donington Park, where 3 different winners from 3 different races. The reigning champion, Chris Butcher, now with THR, leads the way on 48 points ahead of Ben Willis. And what's more, there is a new car on the grid for this season, and it is the 330i M Sport, with dynamics actually tweaked and approved by 4-time British touring car champion Mr. Colin Turkington. And actually, I drove the car just this past week at Simply Race's new facility in Milton Keynes, and to be honest with you, I was rather impressed. There are the live standings, so it's Chris Butcher, Ben Willis, Scott Mitchell returns again, as does his teammate Jack Nicholls. Mitchell has taken a win already at round 2. Dan Kell, Luke Mitchell, Lewis McGlade round out the top 6, and they are covered by 16 points. Matthew Churgwin rounds out the top 7 ahead of Chris Shepherds, Jack Nicholls, and the returning Toby Davis, who is on 23 points. But Phil, Brands Hatch, well known, well loved by every Tin Top fan. And with the Indy circuit being rather close and personal here tonight, we're going to have a pretty good battle all the way up and down the order.
We are indeed. You can overtake almost any corner on this circuit. It goes without saying. It's ideally suited for its short length, and with Tin Tops you have guaranteed action all the way through. If a touring car driver can find a gap, they will do, and as we've shown last year quite happily by these guys, the people that were taking part in season 1, that was no exception. My memories of the Grand Prix event, on the Grand Prix circuit last year, still haven't faded away from the fun they had then. So really looking forward to seeing what season 2 brings as we race around the Indy circuit with these lovely new cars, teams and drivers.
Indeed, quite a few changes up and down the order. E-Team Brit have come in with 3 squads. E-Team Brit White with Bradley Brockes and James Lambert running 2 BMWs. E-Team Brit Blue, Sandra Ballesteros and Michael Tyler in the Ford Focus. And Max Spooner, all on his lonesome. You can actually see the entry list on there as well. Chaz Draycott joins the grid for Season 2. Missed the opening round back at Donington Park. So he is running as one of the many independents. Aidan Millward returns. He's running in the 330i, ran in the 125i M Sport that we saw in Season 1, and he's under the Option 13 Sim Sport banner. Norfolk Endpoints Racing, Daniel Slattery in the Honda FK2. Team Atagani, Phil Morby returns, but switches from Subaru to Ford. Chaz Draycott, who has openly admitted on Facebook that he said, I missed the first round due to other commitments and I've had no practice. Well, we'll see how he gets on. Callum Wilson joins the grid also in an independent BMW. Nick Stepanenko in the Team Spirit by Advanced Simulation Ford Focus. Actually, one of the 3 drivers not here tonight. Scott Sovic has gone running solo, and Phil, triple-decker Scooby-Doo sandwich is still very much on, courtesy of Scott Sovic from Ballas Esport in the 55, and the pairing at Revolution Sim Racing, John Waldridge and James Like.
One of the many catchphrases that we established in Season 1, and many more to come in Season 2, definitely. Very happy to see at least 3 Subarus on the grid, and I'm glad you almost shipped up on that, as I would have done. It's great to see, like I say, the newer drivers taking part, returning drivers taking part, and the various teams also looking at the switches that have made. Obviously, King's Racing last year were in the Mercedes last year. They've moved across to Astra. So, it's great to see who can adapt to these new cars, who can adapt to their current lineup. Sancho Simsport, obviously, and their focuses last year were just absolutely blinding. So, yeah, lots of changes, lots of different choices made, and from what I've seen, also lots of nice new liveries as well. Really looking forward to this one.
Indeed, I very much concur with that sentiment there. Ross McGregor, one of the 3 Zancho SimSport cars that will not be taking to the grid. Ross McGregor recently got hitched, so many congratulations to him and his bride. And we wish them all the best, and hopefully we'll see Ross back very, very soon. Looks like we are about to get underway with qualification. 15-minute session here at Brands Hatch as they all make their way down towards the pit lane, and the 66 of Epic Racing's Ryan Elliott has Toby Davis trying to shove past him on the pit lane, and so going through the Harewood Hill up towards Druids. And Toby Davis, he loses the back end. He had a bit of a Scandinavian flick a la Tiffling. I hate to think what's going to happen in the first race a little bit later on. So approximately it will be a 20-minute race. I think it is, if memory serves me correctly, the amount of lap going to be required by each driver. It's going to be 24 laps for each race. There is one of the many BMWs that have joined the grid. That's Callum Wilson. Is a regular on the R Factor 2 platform, competes in endurance racing as well, but he's decided to put his foot in the door with regards to tin top, so we'll see how he gets on. But they're now going to go on to the first flying lap, and he crossed up through Paddock Hill Bend there, Phil.
Throwing it in just the way we like it, a bit of BMW action with sideways, as he's doing exactly the same through Druids, and heading down the Wood Hill. And again, sideways action. Callum's really throwing the BMW into this. And it's good to see he's getting stuck in already to see how many tenths of a second he can bring out of the new BMW in qualifying. Great to see, he's really adapting himself well to this and just finding out what the limits of the car are now. Because in race trim, well, it gets a little bit more busy.
It does indeed. Drivers have already made their choices for option tyres. 7 drivers second and 9 in the third. Again, more tyre smoke coming from the back end, and also from the front left, it looked like, on that 330iM Sport. There is one of the... and someone's had a bit of a roll. Ooh, well, that was more than just a bit of a roll. That was literally launched it over the fences. And there's Lambert in the 68 BMW for... let's have a look at this. And that is Phil Morby. Look, literally, he's launched it. The car's decided, I'm going to comply. And look... Literally, it just... Yeah.
That says it all. 2 wheels through Paddock Hill Bend, and then unfortunately taking a bit of a flying lesson in the Focus. Phil had some fun in the Subaru last year, so it looks like he's already having fun with the Focus as well.
Well, initial times coming in. Jack Nichols in the number 29 Astra for Kings Racing goes provisional pole, and he's 2 tenths up of on Zancho SimSport's Kell, but then Ryan Elliott in the 66 decides to jump up into provisional pole. There's Lewis McGlade, one of the 3 Zancho SimSport drivers, but he is, well, it's just him and Dan Kell tonight. There's another of the BMWs which hurtles its way through. It looked to be the number 39, I believe, and that would be Cameron Brewster. He's currently 8th on a 45.631. Lewis McGlade has put himself up into... and I was going to say, we've got a bit of a Haas tribute livery here on a BMW. I thought Haas run with Ferrari engines.
They've decided to expand out into other avenues, should we say.
Well, Jack Nichols is very close to the bubble. We've got just under 11 minutes and 20 seconds on the clock in qualification. And at the moment, top 19 rounded out covered by just a fraction over 2 seconds as Cameron Brewster hurtles it into Paddock Hill Bend, and he goes up towards Druids. Again, the BMW, I mean, it's nice to see that there's a bit of a different change from the 1 Series that we had last year. Daniel Slattery rocking a slight sort of Andrew Jordan tribute livery from the old Pertec days. You remember when he won the title a few years ago. Jack Nichols. Yeah, good to see a bit of a nice livery for Kings Racing. They've gone a little bit more. There's Jack Nichols and Scott Mitchell. Mitchell's already got a win. He was very, very close to doing so last year, but now that they've made the switch to the Astra, it seems to be a... And Nichols currently in 2nd. Now, Scott Mitchell at the moment running P8, and he is 1/100th off of Callum Wilson in the fours. But early days here, Phil. The track's going to evolve. I mean, it's dry, 19 degrees Celsius. The track's going to just continue to evolve over the session, and I think we could be. Pole's probably going to be anywhere between a 45.4 and a 45.5, I would believe, with the way these drivers are pushing. As Jack Nichols, that was coming out of Clearways and into Clark Curve, and he's decided to hit the old escape button. Michael Tyler and the number 70 E-Team Brit Blue Ford Focus have really brought three squads. I know for a fact that Max Spooner is running solo in E-Team Brit Purple, and they have until the next round, which will be at Silverstone International on the 11th, in the hot seat. But we saw quite a bit of action from the E-Team Brit posse, and now that they've expanded their remit to 3 cars, it just goes to show that they are looking to improve, and hopefully, yes, they might be running in different cars, but they'll still be able to analyse data together and work score points as Tyler goes off exit stage left.
I think we're cursing him slightly just to sort of add to the track limits side of things. So it's being heavily monitored on the way out of Paddock Hill Bends, down the hill and running up to Hellwood Hill, making sure that you've got to have 2 wheels on the curbing. So to the gravel, obviously it's going to cause you issues setting a fast time, but they're also monitoring it as well out of Graham Hill Bend, which is normally a really big area that heavily penalises itself. So again, 2 wheels on the red and white curbing, 2 wheels on the green curbing, obviously, or the grasscrete, I suppose we can call it now. The guys have really got to make sure as they're setting these times and getting the tyres up to temperature, getting the setups correct as they need to, and pushing as hard as they can without going over those limits. Otherwise, they're going to have that's pinged and lose those lap times for track limits. As we see Matthew Churgin in the drag racing BMW again. Do you know what? I'm liking the look of these BMWs so far. The 1 Series, as you say, last year looked really good. The 3 Series looks absolutely fantastic on them. So it's really good to see the hard work that's gone into these. Luke Maguire here in the THR Vauxhall Astra. Again, the Astra, a popular choice. It went really well last year with small power. Teams seem to have gone for it again this year, and it's good to see plenty of variety through the grid, including the new Hondas as well. Even though it's a slightly older Honda FK2 shape, it's nice to see it up with the others.
Yeah, Small Power Racing, outgoing champions, so we will have effectively a de facto new champion in terms Chris Butcher was partnered with Mike Bell and Scott Sovic for Smile Power Racing. Butcher actually won the title with 420 points in comparison with Dan Kell from Zancho Simsport, who was on 382. Now, one of the biggest things is that Drag Racing's Ben Willis, last season's independent champion, Graham Hill Bend from Callum Wilson. There is Ben Willis, number 85, ran in a Subaru last season, currently P16. Is he going to improve as he crosses the line? It looks like that was just an outlap there, so I got a bit ahead of myself, so to speak. But again, I mean, I did try, as all he runs through the gravel and up into Druids. He kept his foot planted there, Phil. It just goes to show Ben Willis not short of any commitment.
That's it, exactly. That's what he needs to be doing, and to send it through his way. And it's, again, that commitment in the hill as well. But Ben is fully committed to this lap, pushing nice and hard. And there's another sideways action we've seen from Callum Wilson yet either. The lap looks very tidy, the BMW looks very tidy, not too much to deplete the lap at the line.
Oh, and again, I think that was another. I think you just took you took a page out of my book right there, Phil.
Building up.
Aidan, I now broadcasted the side of qualifying. A big thank you once again to our broadcast director back for a second season, Mike Yao. Aidan Millward, currently P10. Is he looking to improve? To 11th, and then straight back into 10th, ahead of Scott Mitchell by 32 thousandths. Oh, now that is a bright livery and then some, courtesy of Scott Sovic in the Ballas Esports Subaru Levorg GT. And he's just behind one of the Vauxhall Astras. He looks to be up in sector number 2 as he pulls the car across as far as he dares to the right-hand side of the Brabham Straight across the line. Stays 16th. And also, one of the other things was to, as Scott Sovic has a bit of a tank slapper there. There's Dan Kell, runner-up last season. He's about to exit out of the pit lane, and he is currently in 5th place. at the moment on a 45. The pit lane, the exit has also been noted by those looking in sternly at race control. You've got to make sure that you stay within the white lines and make sure that it is safe for you to exit the pit lane. Any haphazard behaviour will be stringently penalised to the full extent of the regulations. And with a tight and technical circuit like this, which is also fast in its own right, Phil, you have to really be on the limit, but also keep it nice and clean. You don't want to afford yourself any mistakes. We've seen that plenty of times in Season 1. It's a new season now, and these drivers will have had, well, a lot of them will have had that welcome experience after running on these cars. And now things will start to improve. But Ryan Elliott in the 66 Epic Racing FK2 Honda Civic, Jack Nicholls has just been dropped to the tune of nearly 0.2 of a second. But Nicholls, as I said earlier, well, 9 points for him as, oh, now that looked very dark. And what did I just see on Ryan Elliott's car? The wipers have gone on. It has rain shower here at Brands Hatch.
This is just exactly something the drivers didn't need, but we're going to enjoy watching, because now, if they haven't set their fastest times already, they're probably going to strange. It starts raining, say several more cars going round with the windscreen wipers going on. Jack Nicholls taking a lot of curb and sliding almost into the MG, so then they're having to catch themselves and concentrate on their lap. But yeah, this is going to present a new challenge to the drivers, and with just over 2.5 minutes left of qualifying, it's going to be a brave man to try and set a fast time in this condition.
Well, a brave man has just done that. Chris Butcher has just put himself into P3. And look at the gap between him and Nicholls. 65 thousandths of a second between second and third place. Toby Davis and Dan Kell round out the top 5, who were covered by a fraction under 0.4. And it's Callum Wilson making his debut in the series, 6 ahead of Daniel Slattery, Phil Morby, Lewis McGlade and Cameron Brewster rounding out the top 10, covered by just over 5.5 tenths. There is Brewster down on sector number 1, Surtees and McLaren. And again, it's just proving to be that little bit tetchy with the wipers going from left to right on the front windscreen. And he is pushing, I'll give him that. Cameron Brewster crosses the line, 46.917 from the number 39 Drake Racing. No improvement out of P10. It was a 46.917. His fastest lap of this qualifying session, 46.019. That we have negated to mention, but it's a staple of this championship. It is the weight structure, the race success ballast. So effectively, well, I'm just trying to look. I think Ben Willis is actually running with the most amount of ballast. That's 75 kilos. As Cameron Brewster decides to pull it into the pits, there's Luke Mitchell's Dealer Racing team. He's running solo tonight as well, because no Ed Straw. So Ed will be hopefully taking part in the next round, as Mitchell just absolutely sends it. And 2 wheels on the curb. Doesn't go skywards, but goes through the kitty litter up towards the hill.
Morby going slightly wide there and choosing to dive straight into the pits, trying to work fast on the lap, and obviously not working. The conditions catching him out slightly, as we're back to Chris Butcher in third in the times at the moment, with just under a few seconds left. I think, in fact, he's also abandoning the lap as well. I think we're pretty much looking at a few drivers deciding to call it a day as the checkered flag comes out and the session ends. And Scott Sovic looks like he's had a moment off as well. And yeah, I think
so. Ryan Elliott takes pole position for round number 4 here at Brands Hatch Indy. Jack Nicholls pipped by just under 0.2 of a second. Chris Butcher, the reigning and defending champion, in third place, ahead of THR teammate good old Toby Davis. Number 34 makes good his intentions and qualifies to within 70 thousandths of his teammate at THR. Then it's Dan Kell, Callum Wilson, Lewis McGlade rounded out the top 7, covered by just over 4.5 tenths of a second. Daniel Slattery from Norfolk Endpoints Racing in 8th. Phil Morby from Team Atagani from in the number 14 rounds out the top 9. Cameron Brewster completes the top 10, covered by 0.555 of a second. Then a further 12 thousandths back, Aidan Millward. Scott Mitchell 12th, Luke Mitchell 13th, Matthew Chirgwin and Luke Maguire completes the top 15 drivers in qualification. Scott Sovic, Ben Willis, Jordan Hearn, Bradley Brockies and James Lambert round out the top 20 positions after qualification. And then we take a look towards the back end of the field to see if we can. Daniel Hyde, Max Spooner and Michael Tyler all set a lap time. Total field covered by 2.460 seconds. James Lyke and John Waldridge not setting a lap time in the pair of the Subaru Levorg GTs, but flying out of the blocks, Ryan Elliott really showcased. I mean, Jack Nicholls, credit where credit is due, set the benchmark. It only had to take one person to beat that, and it was Ryan Elliott, Phil, and Chris Butcher, not that far off the pace.
No, exactly. We're looking at a really competitive race one, I feel, especially if the mixed conditions continue. And Sadie's learned a year. He's moved to the Astra and already is pumping in quite a decent time for qualifying for race one. Chris Butcher, Toby Davis, we both know are well-known talents in the series. And when you consider you've got the likes of Lewis McGlade, Phil Morby, Aidan Millward inside the top 10, but with new names including Callum Wilson up there and Cameron Brewster, it's going to be quite a mix. It's going to be interesting to see how race one kicks off with all of the different variables in place.
Yes, indeed. So those wondering about what the calendar is for season 2 of the VMO Touring Car UK Championship, live on the VMO YouTube channel, also various other YouTube channels and respective platforms. The calendar itself is as follows. So tonight, Brands Hatch Indy, a triple bill here in the Garden of England. Then we head to the home of British Motorsport, Silverstone International, for 3 rounds on the 11th of August. Thruxton in Hampshire, round 4 of the season, 25th of August. Oulton Park, the 8th of September. Croft, the 22nd of September. Snetterton, the 6th of October. And we go north of the border to Knockhill on the 20th of October. Silverstone National hosts the penultimate round of the season on the 3rd of November, and we return back here to Brands Hatch to West Kingsdown in Kent, but it will be the full, unadulterated Grand Prix circuit. And Phil, just sort of looking back at qualifying as the drivers are having a warm-up before the first of 3 races, which will be in duration of 24 racing laps, so quite a few miles to cover, probably close to 30 miles in total racing length in terms of the circuit itself. It's been a wait that I think not just us here in the virtual commentary box, but also the competitors and the new additions have really, really anticipated a very good season in prospect. Chris Butcher is the one with his target on his back, but I'm sure that he will rise to the occasion.
I know that there's been a lot of hard work going on during the off-season before the announcement that came through the second series for this year. So there's been a lot of hard work by the drivers that already competed last year. There's been work done by the new entries, the new drivers making their debut in the series, keeping an eye on the various Discord channels as I do, knowing that they are. I can't really say too much because I'm not sure how much is broadcastable, but yeah, they've been having a lot of fun trying to figure out. They've been having a lot of fun working out the new cars, setups that they've chosen, and also just making sure that they're as ready as they can be. As happens to anyone who races in a season, you've always got an off season, so there's always a little bit of race rustiness. So I'm sort of expecting for the first 2 races today at least a bit of back to school mojo from the guys, of a case of right, let's go racing and see how much fun we can have and how far they can push the limits as well.
Well, of not just the track, but of each other at the same time as well. Coming into the second round of the championship, the team's standings is as follows. It is even Stevens between Drake Racing and THR, both on 71 points apiece, but it was Drake Racing that took the lead in the standings after taking 39 points in race 3 at Donington Park. Sancho Simsport, never count them out. They are in third at the moment on 69 points. Kings Racing pairing of Scott Mitchell and Jack Nichols. Obviously, Scott's win at the second race of the opening round really helped propel them to fourth in the standings on 63. King's Dealer Racing, the sister team, 34 points from Luke Mitchell and Ed Straw. Epic Racing, Ballas Esports, E-Team Brit White, Option 13 Sim Sports, and Team Atagani round out the top 11 spaces on that grid. Some no scores at the moment. Obviously, no Chance Greycott, so he was not available to attend. Team Spirit by Advanced Simulation, E-Team Brit Purple and E-Team Brit Blue yet to break their ducks, so to speak. If we had stumps, a cricket bat, and a leather ball, which was probably promptly smacked into the local vicinity of the circuit, they need to get their acts together rather sharpish. But the weather conditions, it's still raining in the warm-up. They are being given an opportunity to test out the conditions. And I count 15 drivers currently out on circuit at the moment. So they're going to have a little bit of an acclimatization. But whilst that happens, we're going to go to a brief commercial break here on the second round of the 2021 Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship. Back in a moment, folks. Welcome back to live coverage of the second round of the 2021 Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship here at Brands Hatch Indy Circuit in West Kingstown in Kent. Alex Goldschmidt and Phil Kincher, official commentators throughout the remaining few races all the way through to the tail end of November this season. Phil, we are just literally moments away from the first live broadcasted race of this season, and the anticipation couldn't be higher if you wanted it to.
It's absolutely brilliant, isn't it? Really looking forward to this. We had a lot of fun last year in season 1, lots of action. I don't think we had one dull race at all during the season, and I'm expecting the bar to be raised even higher in season 2. Like I say, with the new car combinations, driver combinations and teams that we've got in, and so far they are proving to be pushing as hard as they can already. This is going to be a really good race evening for everyone, and race 1 no doubt is going to pave the way, I feel, for how the course is going to be set for this evening.
Yes, the battle lines will truly start to be drawn here at Brands Hatch for the first of 3 races here tonight. So for those watching, thank you very much for joining us. Who's your money on? Who are you cheering for? I'm sure that there's quite a few people keeping their keen eyes on what is going to happen over the next 3 races, which will be taking place over the next hour and a half or so. And each driver will get an opportunity to maybe have a warm-up session in between, depending on obviously different conditions. But we are first formation lap of the season live on your screens at home. If you're watching, why not forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and whilst you're at it, hit the notification bell so you can be apprised of whenever Virtual Motorsport Online goes live and the drivers go to war. Door panel to door panel, front to rear bumpers. There we go. Let's have a look. They're on their formation lap. Ryan Elliott and Jack Nicholls, row 1. Defending champion Chris Butcher and Toby Davis on row number 2, both with THR. Row 3, Callum Wilson and Lewis. Row 4. Completing the top 10, it's a duo of BMWs. Drag Race Option 13 Simsport number 67 of Aidan Millward. Then it's the Mitchell brothers, Scott and Luke, on row number 6. Row 7, Matthew Churgwin and Luke Willis, rounding out the top 8 rows, completing the top 16. Jordan Hearn, Bradley Brockies, James Lambert and Max Spooner on this grid as the leaders now start to make their way, weaving from side to side. Michael Tyler, James Lyke, John Waldridge and Daniel Hyde rounding out the 20. Hans Draycott, I would understand, has got some technical issues trying to log on, or actually boot R Factor 2 to come on board. A real shame for Chaz, but they start lining up. And for any one of you that is a true touring car fan, the biggest thing with Brands Hatch is the start. So you'll be able to see the RPM, the speed and the gearing in the bottom right hand corner as they are all lined up. Race 4 of the season, the first broadcasted VMO TCUK Championship race. They are being kept holding at the moment as we wait with bated breath. And we get a bit of wheel spin from Jack Nicholls, but he gets a good launch. And a bit of a tangle between Butcher and Elliott going into Paddock Hill Bend. But Jack Nicholls from the front row on the grid takes the initial lead. Toby Davis in second position. But you've also got Ryan Elliott battling away with Chris Butcher. Lewis McGlade trying to... Davis going through into Druids for the first time. Down the hill for the first time they go into the left-hander at Graham Hill Bend, onto the Cooper Straight. Several of them bouncing over the curves, including Davis, Butcher, and a few all and sundry just behind. But Jack Nicholls has needed here, Phil, and he did the job early despite all that wheel spin, as he nearly has a bit of a tank slap at the back end, steps out, a bit of a Scandinavian flick there. Snap on oversteer. Forces Davis side by side, going down the Bradman straightaway into Paddock Hill Bend. Elliott, if he outbrakes Davis, he's going to get the run going through. He gets the job done, but Davis looking for the switchback, not quite happening yet.
It's already kicking off, isn't it? Elliott was already pushing Davis through lap. Davis is coming back at Elliott. He's still going to squabble over second place, and this is the perfect opportunity for Jack Nicholls to be able to go and extend the lead that he's already taken. But don't forget, you've got Chris Butcher holding Toby Davis, and we've got Lewis McGlade, who we know once he gets into the mix in the Ford Focus, he will strike where he can. Elliott on the defensive, Nichols in the lead, and it looks as though Butcher's also going for Davis as well. So already the fireworks are kicking off.
Yeah, the two THR teammates side by side. Butcher, Nichols puts in a 46.584. He's trying to pull a gap over Ryan Elliott, who's now trying to chase him down. That looks to be, I think that's Scott Sovic that is running a bit slowly. So whether he's ended up in dramas earlier on, Aidan Millward down the order as well. He's right at the back end of the field in the number 67, option 13 Simsport BMW 330, as Butcher and Davis, they might be teammates, they might be going to war, but one of the biggest rules is never take out your teammate. And we know how rambunctious Butcher can be at the best of health position at the moment. And that is with James Like, who started right down to the back end of the field, but he's just let the door open. And that is for James Lambert, who's up into 13th position and has just gone ahead. Elliott has now put in the fastest lap of this race, and he is closing the gap to Nichols. And there is the number 29 from Kings Racing, Ryan Elliott, in the FK2 Honda Civic that was used to great success by the likes of Andrew Jordan, Josh Cook when he's joined BTC Racing, along with Chris Smiley in the British Touring Car Championship. They found good purchase in those cars. But Jack Nichols knows that Elliott is chasing him down, and there is the door wide open. Nichols runs a little bit wide going through Clark Curve, and that opens the door for Elliott. But now Nichols has the perfect opportunity to close in and retake the lead, probably in a handful of laps.
5 laps into the race, and look at what's happening already. It's amazing. It's cracking stuff, isn't it? Nichols already pushing back to see if he can try and close up to Elliott. Elliott obviously had the pole position, just didn't get the start he needed, whereas Nichols had a good start in the Astra and managed to pull away along the two THR Astras. Speaking of which, Lewis McGlade and Phil Morby have both managed to get past Toby Davis, so whether there was a bit of an argy-bargy there or what's going on, we're not sure, but there is definitely a queue from the looks of things as we go back to Daniel Slattery in the what we're going to say the Andrew Jordan lookalike. I think it looks pretty good. He's in 18th place at the moment, and he's currently fighting with Cameron Brewster with Aidan Millward in close contact behind him. So already battles up and down the field, as the Indy circuit proves. You know, it's close racing wherever you are, and every single corner is hard fought for. That pass you can make, that's better, as it looks like Scott Sovic goes wide again in the background, and Slattery chasing Brewster for 16th place now as they both cross the finish line.
Aidan Millward making a resurgence through the field. He's got past Tyler. Well, he literally powered past him around the outside going down the Brabham Straight. The speed on that BMW is absolutely ridiculous. And then some. There's Slattery battling away. That is with Brewster, I believe, isn't it? So, which is the case.
Brewster.
Yep, so Brewster dropping down the order, a bit like a stone being dropped in a pond. Jordan Hearn, teammate for Dan Hyde in the Cadan Casual Apex, the only team that has gone with the MG6 GT. Elliott, in the meantime, has opened up a gap to the tune of 1.9 seconds over Jack Nichols. A little bit of a mistake by a couple of cars there, which includes the number 717 of John Waldridge, as Luke Maguire now coming under fire from Callum Wilson. Now, Luke Maguire started around about 15th position, and he's actually closing in on his teammate, Toby Davis. So Toby Davis is trying to manage the situation. And looking at the tyre choice, Toby Davis went with the prime tyre. And I'm just looking down the field. Luke Maguire is on the prime tyre, but he's making it work. We ride on board with Jordan Hearn. And there is Waldridge in the 717 just up ahead. The Subaru Lavore going through Surtees into McLaren before Clark Curve, and all bit sideways there from Waldridge going through the exit of the corner, and that is going to allow Jordan Hearn. Now, we know that the MG has featured prominently in the first season, but only one two-car team. Phil Morby now trying to battle away with Lewis McGlade, but McGlade doing very, very well. You did say, and you rightly pointed out, Lewis does like to get his elbows out, but when he gets to the front of the field, he can also be consistent and defend very, very well. He knows that Morby's in his mirrors. He's just waiting for the opportune time to make the rear haunches of that Ford Focus RS as wide as humanly possible as they go across the line. And we are now on lap number 9 out of 24, and the gap between McGlade and Morby is just about 2.5 tenths of a second as they go up. And there has been someone going off the road a bit further back. To be one of the BMWs that could have been Ben Willis, as Callum Wilson sends it up the inside for 6th position on Toby Davis through Druids. That was neatly executed, a little bit of rubbing, but no harm, no foul.
No, that's the way it works. A little bit of rubbing's fine in racing, and especially on such a tight circuit as the Brands Hatch Indy circuit. As you see, Callum Wilson being overtaken again as Davis comes back around him, and at this time he is now the BMW filling in a Vauxhall Astra sandwich as Elliott once again sends the fastest lap of the race, lowers it again to 46.405, extending his lead to just over 3, almost in fact nearly 4 seconds. To Nichols. So what's gone on there? It looks like Nichols has lost.
No, it's not Nichols. It's not Nichols. Nichols has dropped behind Butcher. So Butcher now there was a massive plume of smoke from the back end, probably the locking up of brakes. Okay, so we're going to see a replay of the start here. Ada Millwall. That's why.
Ouch.
He got a bit of a turnaround there, and that was one of the Drake Racing cars. And we've had a DNF, that is from Luke Mitchell, Callum Wilson, and that is Maguire from THR, definitely a loggerheads, the elbows, and not just that, the door handles are definitely popping out of their seams at the minute. There is Scott Mitchell closing the pair down. Now, Waldridge has ended up pitting. Sovic is down a lap, but Wilson puts it on the curbing on the inside of Paddock Hill Bend. And through into Druids, he makes the move nice and clean. Scott Mitchell just waiting for an opportunity. There is a touch between the Astra and the BMW. And all of a sudden, Scott Mitchell just waiting. He's got the ringside seat. He knows he doesn't have to make a gap with the two in front, make it for him as they go down the Cooper straight. Callum Wilson and Morby. Waldridge has now DNF'd as well, I'm afraid. So 2 cars out. We're down to 22 runners and riders as we go on to lap number 12 out of 24. Wilson and Maguire now having a 3-way scrap because Scott Mitchell is closing in. I do spy a little BMW in the background, but I'm not too sure. That looks to be one of the E-Team Brit white cars. It could possibly be James Lambert, but your guess is as good as mine as Mitchell looks to the outside to get the cutback through Druids on Maguire. Down the hill once again. This battle is absolutely brilliant. It's just what we love about VMO TCUK, isn't it, Phil?
It's absolutely great, isn't it? They're pushing as hard as they can. They're trying to find the weakness, trying to find the smallest gap possible to fit the car through. At the minute, it's calmed down a little bit with Wilson leading the way still ahead of Maguire and Mitchell. You've got Ben Willis in 10th place, closing in to make this a 4-car battle as well. As we go to the replay here. Side by side through Graham Hill and pushing wide, and unfortunately that's probably why. Yeah, look, Luke Mitchell hitting the side at the bottom of Graham Hill Bend and heading off to the fence, after the barrier, and that is unfortunately his race run. From the looks of things, a very nasty accident, unfortunately. As we turn back to the 4-car battle, or where are we? I've lost count. To the 4-car battle of 7th place. You've got Callum Wilson, Luke Maguire, Scott Mitchell and Ben Willis now closing. It's a 4-car train. At the moment, they're just keeping a watching brief with each other as we head back to Lewis McGlade, who is being pursued by Phil Morby, and just in front of McGlade is Jack Nichols. You've got a 3-car battle for 3rd place as things start to close up as we pass this halfway point of the race itself.
Yeah, just looking at tyre choices, I'm just going to have a look down the order. Lewis McGlade on primes. Jack Nichols also, I think, on primes. That is confirmed by the soft option tyres. Phil Morby, on the other hand, he went options. He went for the more risque decision, and that could pay to his dividends. But this trio here, that's a bit of a cheeky move up the inside and a touch between Morby and McGlade. But they both managed to just get away with it by the skin of the paint. And now we've had a DNF, Scott Mitchell. So we are down to what is 20 cars now, as we've got just 10 laps remaining of the first of 3 24-lap encounters here at Brands Hatch Indy. But Morby was more than just aggressive. I think he just wanted to do the old Danny Rick lick the stamp and send it. And he put it up the inside of McGlade, and McGlade was just having absolutely none of it there.
None whatsoever. It looks like Morby handed the place back, though, in the name of fair racing, so I'm sure he'll have another crack within the second half of the race going, as we're looking at Aidan Millward now. Oh, lots of contact there, and that's gone very wrong for Millward. As he's also, looks like he's taken out Daniel Hyde with him on the run up to Howard Hill. Now they're both getting going again, still a little bit of contact there, but they've dropped a few places on the field as they now get going towards Druids. Jordan Hearn we're now with in the teammate to Daniel Hyde.
Yeah, two wrongs do not make a right there.
No,
that's all I'm saying about that one. But to be honest with you, these drivers, they do like to battle away, and in tin tops, well, I think the words "expect the unexpected" are probably rather a good choice of words right about now, wouldn't you say, Phil?
Absolutely, yes, and definitely. Remembering in tin tops, you've got lots of panels to rub and lots of panels to bash as much as you can possibly get away with before you get handed a penalty. As we're seeing Scott Sovic here, lots of sideways action in the Subaru as Jordan Hearn goes wide through Druids and lets Sovic pass. I'm not sure if that's just taking the wrong line or he's outbraked himself suddenly, but definitely not missing the colour scheme on Scott Sovic's Subaru. That's definitely going to be one we're going to be keeping an eye on this year, as he makes another position up to 13th and Jordan Hearn pursues in 14th place.
The DNFs, they keep on coming after that massive incident. Severe contact for Aidan Millward and Dan Hyde. Aidan Millward has DNF'd. The damage was unfortunately terminal. So Dan Hyde, I think, has been hit with a penalty. So I don't think Aidan Millward might have been the one at fault. It might have been Dan Hyde. So he's ended up in the pits. But whether he's repairing damage is another matter. Ryan Elliott still leads 6.3 seconds ahead of reigning and defending champion Chris Butcher, who does lead the standings coming into this. Well, he's he's coming to the lead of this standings, and Daniel Hyde is in the pits for a significant amount of time. Luke Maguire is still trying to close in on Callum Wilson. This battle has been going on all race long, and it shows no signs of dissipating at all. Right, we're going to have a look at the replay here. Millward versus Hyde. Now this is going through into Paddock Hill. Millward touched the back right and then now is that a lesser spotted Pertec Tribute livery Honda Civic I just saw in the background there?
Like is,
that was Daniel Slattery.
Trying to avoid the action, unfortunately, just about getting away with it, but definitely two hits on the rear of the MG from Aidan Millward from the overhead angle.
Yeah, I think it's just trying to make a bit of room. I think it's what they would say in in Aussie supercars, a bit of a bump and run there. But you can just see that is Hyde, and he's being passed by quite a few other drivers, while the left rear quarter panel and left rear door on that MG, and well, that's probably, the damage was more substantial. It looked superficial, and that's why he's in the pits for a significant amount of time. He's gone 3 laps down off of Ryan Elliott, who is continuing to push the envelope. Morby, well, look, Lewis McGlade tries to get past Jack Nicholls. He has done so. And now, with 5 laps remaining, the battle for 4th position no longer involves Lewis McGlade, who now has 3rd in his firm grasp. Jack Nicholls will have to fend off the unwelcome advances of Phil Morby as they go through Paddock Hill, up to the Howard Hill, through into Druids. And I think the thing is that sometimes it's about damage conservation, damage limitation here, Phil, because Jack Nicholls got a rocket ship-like start at the beginning of the race, wheel spun it like a good one off the line, but it managed to bite down and he got a good run and took the lead. We're going to go to another replay now. Now this is Scott Sovic through into Surtees and McLaren into Clark Curve. Oh, that's definitely a bit of JDM drift right there.
Yeah.
It just keeps going.
And going.
And going.
And going.
And yep, he decides to do a bit of a Ken block and goes rally crossing instead. Never mind, but Jack Nicholls feverishly working hard behind the wheel to keep Phil Morby at bay, as we're on lap number 21 out of 24. It's been a rather interesting race, but Elliott is leading by a clear country mile. Matthew Churgwin now battling away with James Like in the number 11 Revolution Sim Racing Subaru Levorg. And we go on board the roof cam of the number 43 BMW 330i M Sport, going down the Cooper Straight, having exited out of Graham Hill Bend, into the left at Surtees, through into the right at McLaren. A very fast part of the circuit here in terms of momentum carry, and a pendulum swing in terms of lateral sideways G-forces going through the sidewalls of the tyres, which will be absolutely screaming for mercy round about now. Daniel Hyde, I think he's in the pits right up until the checkered, because that car has not moved for the best part of well over 4 minutes. As oh, mistake from Like. Churgwin up the inside, gets the job done, puts it on the apex, through into Druids and says thank you very much. As Jack Nicholls and Phil Morby again down the Cooper Straight into Surtees and McLaren. Nicholls keeps the place. He's being kept very honest, but Phil Morby up the inside, bangs panels with Nicholls, does it again going through Clark Curve, but Nicholls keeps his foot planted in and keeps his resolve and stays ahead of the number 14 Ford Focus.
Definitely some speed in Phil Morby's Focus, and also let's not forget he's on the option tyre. He's taking the risky strategy, and he seems to have made that work all through the race. As we see here, Max Spooner in the E-Team Brit Purple MG, getting mixed in with Michael Tyler and Cameron Brewster from the looks of things. So it's going pretty well there. As we head back to the front of the field with Ryan Elliott, he's utterly dominated this race once he got past Jack Nicholls, Alex.
He did indeed, as the Honda Civic now makes its way out of Clark Curve. He took pole position by nearly 0.2 of a second, crosses the line and goes on to the 24th and final lap. He's got a 9.2 second advantage over Chris Butcher. Ryan Elliott has done the perfect start to the evening. We go back to a quick replay. Oh, that's the number 70 E-Team Brit car. Ford Focus, that's Michael Tyler. Oh, did he engage drift mode on that car, I wonder?
I think he did, yeah. A bit of handbrake there and sideways action. Very proud. A
bit of e-brake, as they say over in the US. Ryan Elliott through the Surtees and McLaren complex for the final time. And it is going to be our fourth different winner from four successive races. Ryan Elliott dominates from pole position and takes the checkered and wins in the FK2 Honda Civic by a comfortable margin. Chris Butcher, the reigning defending champion, takes second, and he was being reeled in by Lewis McGlade from Sancho Simsport, who rounds out the top three. Jack Nicholls takes fourth, fends off Morby, who ends up dropping back. Davis in sixth. A good start from Callum Wilson, rounding out the top seven, ahead of Luke Maguire. Matthew Churgwin winning the battle between him and James Like from Revolution Sim Racing. Ben Willis, it's the race that might have gotten away from the number 85 from Drake Racing, 11th, ahead of Daniel Slattery. James Lambert from E-Team Brit White rounds out the top 13, ahead of Jordan Hearn, Cameron Brewster. Max Spooner in 16th. And it looks like that MG's livery hasn't quite... let's say, it vanished before it even got stuck on the car, let's say.
It did, yes, indeed.
So there you have our race results there. Elliott wins the first of 3 races here at Brands Hatch, ahead of Butcher, McGlade, Nicholls, Morby, Davis, Wilson, Maguire, Churgwin, and Like rounding out the top 10 positions. Ben Willis in 11th, ahead of Daniel Slattery, James Lambert, Jordan Hearn, Canan Casual Apex's number 6 MG, Cameron Brewster, Max Spooner, Michael Tyler, Scott Sovic, with Daniel Hyde finishing down in after 16 laps in 19th. We did unfortunately have 5 non-finishers: Aidan Millward, Scott Mitchell, Bradley Brockies, John Waldridge, and Luke Mitchell. So, Phil, your first thoughts after our first live race of Season 2?
Absolutely, exactly what I wanted, and some brilliant racing from the guys there. Some absolutely brilliant racing. The first race has not disappointed, and if anything, I'm looking forward to race 2 already. Some great battles up and down the field from the drivers from Season 1 and also the new drivers as well. Fillmore will be obviously taking top independent honours in 5th place, and proving that the switch to the Ford Focus from the Subaru last year has definitely been beneficial. He had a lot of pace during the first race, especially with the option tyre on, so that would bode well for others if they can make the option tyre work in the current conditions. At the same time, you know, as you said, Jack Nicholls being able to, he got a good start, he managed to plant it and get it into the lead. Yes, Ryan Elliott caught him, so he had the better package slightly in the Honda, but Jack was able to defend and hold his own against the likes of Phil Morby, Lewis McGlade. So there's definitely more to come there. Slightly disappointed with the THR duo of Chris Butcher and Toby Davis in that one. It looks as though they slid backwards after some early infighting. But hopefully if they can just calm themselves down a bit and refocus for race 2 and just try and make some headway, they should be able to have a better time of things. But definitely a cracking race with 2 more left to go. Can't wait for this.
Indeed, another 9 drivers will head onto the option tyres. Those drivers are as follows. THR's Toby Davis, Ben Willis from Drake Racing. You've also got Matthew Churgwin, the second of the 3 Drake Racing cars. Scott Mitchell will also run on the options. Luke Mitchell has also decided to follow suit with his brother. James Lambert from E-Team Brit White will run with the options, as will Sandro Ballesteros from E-Team Brit Blue. Chris Shepherd has already, along with the likes of Max Spooner, decided to use theirs up already. Ryan Elliott, he could be a force to be reckoned with because he has selected the option tyre for race 2, as has Aidan Millward. The other driver that would have been part of that would have been Chaz Draycott, so we will have 8 drivers going on to the option tyres itself. But we're going to go to a brief commercial break because very soon we'll be back for race number 2. Don't go away.
To allow us to be able to compete on a level playing field, we've had to use existing technology to create a set of hand controls that allow us to race on a level playing field. So if you imagine you're going to chicane at 150 miles an hour, our disabled drivers have to be able to go through the chicane at the same speed as the able-bodied driver. That means braking, steering, gear down, on the throttle, off the throttle, on the brake. Now if we keep losing half a second or a few tenths of a second at every chicane, we might be the best driver on the track, but we can't be competitive. So that was the criteria that I gave the engineers, that if we can't do that, then we can't go racing. Al Locke is he's the brains behind our team. He's our race engineer. I tell him what I want and how I want it. He said it's not possible, and I know it's possible because I believe in Al. The cost of the hand controls varies from about £5,000 to about £7,500. That's because we've managed to find a manufacturer in Slovenia that does all this specialist engineering. So that's fingertip control of every function of the car without any limits, so they can drive it without muscular legs. That's competitive. None of this would be possible without Al's British engineering.
The main thing that inspires me to keep going with Team Brit is the quest for constant improvement. You know, we've developed a set of hand controls, and we're not a team that's going to rest on their laurels. We're constantly pushing for better and faster developments.
Welcome back to Virtual Motorsport Online. It's round 2 of the 10 race evening calendar, not weekend. I'm getting ahead of myself here. But it's race 2 coming up soon here at Brands Hatch. Alex Goldschmidt and Phil Kinch taking you through all of the tin top goodness here this evening and for the rest of the season. Phil, just looking back at that race, we already talked about Ryan Elliott, but we saw some fantastic battles with the likes of, say, for instance, Lewis McGlade, Phil Morby, Jack Nichols. We even saw the likes of Callum Wilson battling away with Luke Maguire from THR. It just goes to show that in tin tops, if you're not at the sharp end of the field, you're still going to find a battle, aren't you?
Oh, so it's going to happen. It is in the DNA. It's part of touring car racing and tin tops itself. You're always going to find yourself in close quarters, especially on such a circuit such as the Brands Hatch Indy circuit, because it's short, it's a tight circuit. Whilst you can overtake almost all of the corners, you're going to do it with some panel bashing or at least some paint scraping to do. And as we saw, there was plenty of contact that was very, it was raceable contact. There was nothing too much going on apart from the odd incident we saw. But yeah, definitely impressed with the likes of Callum Wilson, Luke Maguire, fighting as they were at the bottom end of the top 10 for positions, and also very, very happy to see James I think it was, making his start for the back of the grid and fighting for a top 10 position coming into the race. Now, yes, we had some retirements, but he's also done that on merit as well. And it's, to be able to do that first time in the car and in such a competitive field as well is definitely a sign of the future. James is going to have a very, very interesting second and third race today. If he's able to pull out performances like that. But yes, action all across the field, up and down the various positions. Great to see. Like I said, I've absolutely missed doing this, and really can't wait to see what they can put out from race 2. And obviously we now get success weights involved. There's the option tyre for the new drivers. Other drivers head to the prime tyre. There's a lot more variables now playing in, and this is where it starts to, you start to see the various benefits of each car, each driver, and the skills they've got coming through, adapting to the package they have.
Yeah, it is about adaptability. It's about consistency. That's how you win a championship. That's what we saw from the likes of Dan Kell and Chris Butcher when they were at loggerheads for the majority of the season last time out, if memory serves me correctly. But then you also had a trio of bright yellow Astras in the form of Smart Power Racing, and then 3 Ford Focuses in the form of Zancho Simsport. And to be honest with you, that was one titanic battle. But we're seeing a sort of a little bit of a repeat of that, but not with just THR and Zancho, but Drake Racing after the first round at Donington Park really showcased that the addition of the 330i M Sport is a car that cannot be counted out in any way, shape or form. And having driven the car myself at Simply Race, as I said, this past Wednesday or Thursday just gone, the car is very responsive. If you do set the traction control, ladies and gentlemen, you go to Simply Race, just be wary that the rear end can be a little bit playful, to say the very least. But we've seen these drivers that are running the BMWs here for Season 2, Phil, like Callum Wilson, like Aidan Millward. They have been throwing the cars in like they just did not care and thought, well, if I miss the apex, at least I know that I'll be able to catch the slide that nearly spins me around in the process.
Exactly, and that's often the best way to learn with rear-wheel drive touring cars, is to throw it in and see what you have on the other side. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, as we saw with Scott Sovic having several sideways moments in the rear-wheel drive Subaru Lavore. But again, you've got new drivers learning to understand cars that they feel they're comfortable with and getting the best out of them. And between the two, to take 2 different examples, Callum Wilson very fast but very sideways in his BMW, versus Ben Willis, who's a little bit more experienced, more racy and very tidy in the BMW. So it's just about that learning and getting to understand the car itself. And once you've got it in its sweet spot, that's it. You can move forward and start taking the battle to the others.
Yep, so looks like we're getting gridded up once again. So we'll take you through the running order for race 2 here at Brands Hatch. Ryan Elliott and Chris Butcher on the front row. Lewis McGlade and Jack Nicholls, they are on row number 2 in the Zancho Simsport Focus, number 78 in the Kings Racing Vauxhall, number 29. Phil Morby, Toby Davis alongside in the numbers 14 and 34. The 404 BMW of Callum Wilson will have the number 56 Astra of Luke Maguire for company. Matthew Churgwin in the 43 BM will have the number 11 Subaru of James Lyke alongside. They complete the top 10. Ben Willis in the 85 BM will have the number 24 Honda of Norfolk Endpoints Racing's Daniel Slattery. James Lambert and Jordan Hearn in the 68 in the 6, that's row 7. Row 8, Cameron Brewster in the 39 and Max Spooner in the 63. Michael Tyler and Scott Sovic round out the top 9 rows ahead of Daniel Hyde and Aidan Millward, who round out the top 20. Well, you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck because we've got 27 cars on the grid for race 2. Scott Mitchell, Bradley Brockies, John Wooldridge and Luke Mitchell, who round out the top 24. And then, right, we have a couple of drivers joining us. Thank goodness for that. They managed to sort out the problems. Dan Kell from Zancho Simsport, Chaz Draycott running in the Chaz Draycott Media with Zancho Honda, and Chris Shepherd. So an epic racing car at the front of the field, an epic racing car at the back end of the field. 24 laps once again as we wait with bated breath until they cry havoc and unleash the dogs of war here at Brands Hatch. And there you go, a bumper car, a car grid of tin tops ready to go racing. They are starting the countdown. The lights are out, we're off and away. And Butcher gets a textbook repeat of what Nicholls did on race 1. And he's got the jump on Elliott. Lewis McGlade looking rather feisty, but Nicholls trying to go around the outside of him, going through into Paddock Hill Bend. And the Focus stays resolute and stays on the inside, but Toby Davis looking to get through. Oh, there's a bit of touching. Oh, McGlade gets a little bit of contact, and Jordan Hearn's off as well. And McGlade's had more dramas, and that was Phil Morby pushing the number 78 Focus off the track, going through the exit of Druids and into Graham Hill Bend for the first time. It's 2x2 hurrah. It's 3 abreast now. Oh, 2 BMWs and a Focus. McGlade up the inside, and that was Callum Wilson towards the outside of it. McGlade, however, he's held on as the 2 BMWs. Oh my goodness me, who on earth was that battling away with Callum Wilson? Now that looks to be James Lambert in the 68. He's got a real good pace, and he's actually right into the slipstream going down the Brabham straightaway into Paddock Hill Bend. Butcher's got the lead from Elliott and is starting to pull a little bit of a gap. Butcher was in the 52s, the low 52s, and Elliott was just over 2.5 tenths of a second adrift.
Already, it looks as though they've decided they're going to pull the cork and go for it in race 2. Lots of side-by-side action still. Plenty of contact that's taking place. Callum Wilson lining up Lewis McGlade. It looks like Phil Morby's managed to get the better of McGlade this time. The various contact on the first lap also seems to have shuffled the order a lot, as up front Brian Elliott is pushing to see if he can keep up with Chris Butcher. That's going to be an interesting one to watch at the same time. Again, you know, Butcher setting the fastest lap on lap 3 over 46.212, but Elliott is in pursuit, and as we saw from race 1, as soon as he gets the bit between his teeth, Ryan Elliott's able to push this Honda really well and get it up to the front, and has the speed to take it to the pace. We saw him pass Jack Nicholls in race 1. Chris Butcher, though, a bit more experienced on this side of things, last year's champion, and he's going to be a much more difficult opponent to pass for Elliott. So this is going to be an even more intense battle than we had in race 1, where Elliott seemed to walk away with it.
Yes, indeed, the Griffin will be sporting back haunches wider than an 18-wheel articulated lorry, as the top 2 have pulled a gap over Maguire to the point of about 2.3 seconds. Matthew Churgwin, who started down in, I think it was 9th position, he's now up into P5. He's closing in on Jack Nicholls, who's got Luke Maguire just up ahead. There's Phil Morby, and I'm sure that Lewis McGlade will want to catch up with him. Scott Sovic up to 13th position. Is closing in on James Lyke, and it looks like Lyke is the freight train as Scott Sovic locks up the front right, and the back end steps out to the left hand side, and he has contact there. Now that would have been Chris Shepherd, who started 27th. He's now up into 13th after that little bit of a rambunctious elbows out style move. Scott Sovic now has Max Spooner and Scott Mitchell and Luke Mitchell closing in on his rear back bumper, on his rear bumper. So the battle for 14th position on, 20 laps remaining. Mitchell looking up the inside. Mitchell was 2 wheels on the grass coming out of Clark Curve, and he's got the run on Spooner. He's going to hopefully get the job done. Will Mitchell outbrake Spooner? He does. And then Luke Mitchell trying to look towards the up the inside through into Druids. Will Spooner close the door? No, he doesn't. He gives enough room for Luke Mitchell to get up the inside, and the Astra makes it through from King's Dealer Racing.
Close racing up and down the field. Also looks as though we've had a bit of an issue there for Toby Davis. He's running back at the back of the field in 27th place, behind the likes of Bradley Brockies and Daniel Hyde. So not sure what's happened to Davis from the start. As back at the front we're seeing Butcher holding his lead, but with Elliott closing him down. We're down to 0.4 of a second as they cross the start-finish line and go into Paddock Hill Bend, take the run through Howard Hill, and in the meantime Dan Kell is making progress from the back of the field as well. Another one of the Zancho SimSport drivers who last year was just absolute dynamite once he got the bit between his teeth, and Kell already up to 10th place from the back of the grid. So we're seeing some great comeback drives taking place through the field, as well as a great fight at the front of the field between these two as Elliott pushes Butcher for the lead once more.
Yeah, just keep your eyes on Chaz Draycott. He's actually closing in on Max Spooner for 17th position. Draycott also one of the drivers that started from the back end of the field. We ride on board the left rear quarter panel of Ben Willis's BMW 330i, and look who's just up ahead, Callum Wilson and Lewis McGlade. You can see Phil Morby in the distance. I'm wondering if Jack Nichols has gotten up the inside. And there is Chaz Draycott. He's battling away. That is with Cameron Brewster and Aidan Millward. And he lost the back end, it looks like, did Draycott, so that has cost him a couple of positions. And right closing in on his 6 is Jordan Hearn from Canan Casual Apex, but we return to the battle for 7th, 8th and 9th. It's 2 BMWs and a Ford Focus. We're going to go to a replay here. This is where Chaz Draycott, coming out of Clark Curve, he's just lost the back end, snap-on oversteer from the rear, and all of a sudden, you know, good catch there, Chaz, despite he's not had any practice at all ahead of tonight, and also having troubles getting into the server for the first of the 3 races. But Wilson, it looks like there's a bit of a tag team effort going on here between the 2 BMWs, but Wilson, if he locks up like that, is going to open the door. Ben Willis nearly got up the inside, and there's Scott Sobey, and he's turning around. Oh, and he's done a full 360. Well held, good sir, even in the kitty litter off of Paddock Hill Bend.
In stuff there, definitely some contact I think from one of the Revolution Sport Subarus there, as we see as we go on board with James Like, and he's catching up with, it looks like, Luke Mitchell for 14th place, with Scott Mitchell just ahead in 13th in the 2 Kings Racing and Kings Dealer Racing respective entries. Meanwhile, just ahead of them you've got Chris Shepherd, so he's absolutely flying through the field, Shepherd, and definitely battling his way, as we watch now Matthew Churgwin chasing down Luke Maguire as they go into Paddock Hill Bend. 2 wheels on the Vauxhall Astra, slight lock up at the back as the wheel catches air, and Churgwin is pushing. Contact there.
Mitchell, and that was the other epic racing car.
Yep.
And that was Chris Shepherd getting a turnaround, going through into Paddock Hill Bend, and there's more drops. Churgwin into the side of Maguire, loses the back end. He punts the left side of the Astra by getting in a bit too hot. That's now going to Concertina everything. We're going to go back to a replay. Now, this is what happened. Now, Shepherd's gone defensive. Now, Mitchell, I didn't see any turn in there, so it's quite difficult. I mean, the thing is that Shepherd was actually just trying to defend and put himself onto the outside of the corner where you can actually banzai around the outside. Here comes Matthew Churgwin trying to do the switcheroo on Luke Maguire, and Maguire's having none of it. They've just rubbed door panels, and Churgwin up the inside, and behind them Phil Morby's fancying a bite of the cherry right about now, and look at the gaggle behind. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars at the very least, and there is Dan Kell. Make that 7 cars, and at the moment Matthew Churgwin now becomes the cork in the bottle, so to speak. Aidan Millward up the inside of Max Spooner. This is into Paddock Hill Bend. A bit sideways from Millward. Oh no. Oh, and Millward again, the same spot in as many races. He went for the move up the inside of Max Spooner. I just think, I mean, that's going to be investigated, I think, post-race, to be honest with you. It's difficult to call, so we're going to leave that one to the stewards, but look at the floodgates waiting to be opened. And now there is Lewis McGlade. You can just see one of the one of the BMWs from Drake Racing just starting to suffer a little bit. That is Ben Willis, and he's got Dan Kell right up his back bumper. Kell's going towards the outside. This is going to be brave going into Surtees, or when he manages to just slot in behind the BMW, because Kell's got past Wilson, who's actually dropped a little bit further back. He's down in 10th position and is the 404 in that lovely burgundy red BMW. I love the livery on that. I think Matt Richards, who raced with us last season, actually designed that, and it looks to be an absolute pearler. But Dan Kell, right from the back end of the field, he is gunning for points, and he knows that he's got a chance. There's 3 cars ahead of him, maybe even 4 if you've got Jack Nicholls. Well, no, it's not just Jack Nicholls is in 3rd place. You've got Churgwin and you've got Maguire. It's all, it's everyone out for themselves, and no one's giving any quarter.
To give and no last, this is Tin Top Racing, and this is the way we like it. You've got 7 different cars fighting for position, hand over fist, hammer and tongs, and they're going for every single gap they can go for. This is just what we want, and this is how we like it indeed. Phil Morby leading the leading the train. Phil Morby just behind Luke Maguire and Matthew Churgwin. So Churgwin leading the train here as they funnel into Paddock Hill Bend as close as you can possibly get, as Ben Willis tries to see if he can get past Lewis McGlade. McGlade defends, but that forces Willis wide, and that allows Dan Kell to go down the inside as Kell managed to pull the move off. It looks so, although Willis comes back at Paddock Hill. I don't know, that was very close, wasn't it? It's about as close as you can get as Kell makes it past Willis, and Callum Wilson closes in the BMW behind him, whereas up front Ryan Elliott still with 13 laps in. We're over halfway through the race. He is pushing Butcher for everything he's possibly worth. 0.3 of a second, just under that now, the gap for the lead. It is even less than that, as you can see visually. This is game on, and this is definitely going to go to the wire. Butcher doing everything he can to defend as Elliott goes onto the inside at Druids. Contact, trading of paint. They're still trading paint. Oh, the touch of the corner. That's sent Elliott round.
And that has compromised those behind.
It has. Because
didn't I just see Jack Nicholls just coming through shot there? So if I'm honest, that's going to be investigated, I would imagine. I don't think Chris Butcher's going to be in Race Control's nice books. He'll probably be in the black mark book after that one. It was the slightest of touches, but it was on the case of the fact that as we go on to the last 10 laps of this race, let's have a look at it again. Now this,
again, it's a touch on the rear quarter, and yeah, there's not really much you can do from there, but from the looks of things, it looks like Butcher actually slowed up, so he's realised his mistake. Thinking the move is still on, but again, like we say, that's probably going to be investigated after the race on that one.
Yeah, Bradley Brockies, I think, has just retired for the 2nd race in a row. The E-Team Brit White 105 BMW not having a good spell here tonight, as Dan Kell has got some air between himself and Churgwin in the number 43 Drag Racing. I think at the end of the day, Ben Willis and Phil Morby have a little bit of a touching match there. It's a bit too close for comfort, and as they say, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Here comes Callum Wilson, and look, it's the 2 Mitchell brothers, Luke being followed by Scott as they go through into Paddock Hill Bend. And now Elliott has got a 1-second lead, because when Elliott got turned around, it actually impeded Butcher as a direct result. So hoisted by your own petard, I think they're a little bit, if I'm completely honest. But we'll let the stewards decide what happens with that one. Scott Mitchell running very wide coming out of the exit of Druids as they go through Graham Hill Bend. Everyone kicking up some dust, and that's very, very wide there from Scott Mitchell. He properly sent that through Graham Hill onto Cooper Straight. And now Luke Mitchell looking up the inside possibly of Callum Wilson, but as long as Callum Wilson does not boot the throttle too hard, the back end doesn't step out, he's going to be absolutely fine as they cross the line. As we are now on to another lap, we've got just a few more remaining. Lap 17 out of 24, another lock up from the right front there, and that was from Callum Wilson. It's not the back end that's causing the problem under braking, it's actually the other one. We've had a DNF as one Mitchell brother to the right, one Mitchell brother to the left going through Druids. Chaz Draycott unfortunately has DNF'd in his debut race for season 2. Hopefully we'll see him back for the 3rd race a little bit later on. But Luke and Scott Mitchell, they are effectively when you think about it. Yes, it's King's Racing and King's Dealer Racing, but they are aligned, and especially when they say that blood is thicker than water. It doesn't matter if your teammate's an assisted team, but Scott looks towards the outside going through into Paddock Hill Bend. Scott used to be a British Touring Car Championship reporter before ending up in Formula One, but still, as we saw last season, he's come a long way. He's managed to get a race victory as Luke Mitchell looking around the outside of Callum Wilson. That's opening the door for his brother, going down the dip once again into Graham Hill Bend. Lap 18 out of 24. This time Luke Mitchell runs a little bit wide, but just behind them you've got James Lambert. Now Lambert is the one of the two E-Team Brit white cars in the BMW. We ride on board with Elliott. Now let's just see, can we get a glance at who is behind Chris Butcher? That is Jack Nicholls, and look who are closing. You've got Matthew Churgwin, and at the rear end of this train, from the back end of the grid, Zancho Simsports, Dan Kell. Now, Kell can smell a podium because he's only a couple of places away from securing it.
Yeah, and as we've seen before, Zancho Simsport, they go through as Ryan Elliott gets a penalty. So the leader gets a penalty. I can only presume that's from the contact that took place, potentially from the when he tried to take the lead of the race, and the contact that happened between him and Chris Butcher. So Chris Butcher in second place at the moment as we head back down. It looks as though Dan Kell now has company, in fact, from Matthew Churgwin. Well, now Ryan Elliott's dropping down the field.
Yeah, well, he's just got into the pits because look how close Jack Nicholls is. Callum Wilson's having one sent up the inside. That's by Maguire. There is Scott Mitchell, and he's got himself well and truly in the thick of things. Elliott's now dropping towards outside of the top 10. Make that the top 14 as Callum Wilson hanging on for dear life. Oh, and he bashes, he has a little bit of a side panel rub with Luke Maguire. Maguire runs wide, it opens the floodgates, and the brothers Mitchell come through. Jack Nicholls has just been passed by Dan Kell, who now takes second, and he's got Chris Butcher in his sights. Lap number 21 out of 24. So 4 more laps to go, including this one. As the battle a little bit further back, Callum Wilson fending off the brothers Mitchell. Scott ahead of Luke, and Scott locks up a little bit going into Paddock Hill Bend. He's trying to get the run, going out of Paddock, going up the Hailwood Hill into Druids. There's another big lock up there. I think that was from Callum Wilson. A little bit of a love tap there from Mitchell on Wilson going through the halfway point of Druids. And we do still have 25 cars rounded out by Michael Tyler. Going to go to a replay here. Now, this is Dan Kell's move, and it was neatly done. Nicholls saw it coming, but I think what he did was just to slot in behind and just sort of keep with him. And Scott Mitchell still trying to get past Callum Wilson. They've got Phil Morby just up ahead, as now Kell's going for the lead. This is through Paddock. These two were championship rivals last year. The gloves are well and truly off here for the second race, for the second round of the 10-round calendar here at VMO TCUK. And Chris Butcher now feeling the pressure cooker situation come his way. But what it's also doing here, Phil, let's not forget, Jack Nicholls and Matthew Churgwin not that far behind.
The more they squabble with each other for the lead, the more it allows Nicholls and Churgwin to close up. And McGlade isn't far away either. He'll also close in the gap as well. It's a short lap here. It's frantic action as we see Kell trying to go around the outside of Butcher for the lead as they go over into lap 23. And we see Toby Davis has garnered a penalty as well, as there's a slight bit of contact as Butcher manages to try and hold off Kell. As they're side by side heading into Druids now. Kell just ahead on the outside line. Can he make the move around the outside? Butcher tries to defend on the inside. They're side by side coming to Paddock Hill Bend, and we've already seen a few issues here. Kell's got the inside line, and he's just ahead. He's managed to pull it ahead. Remembering that Dan Kell started at the back of the grid at the start of this race, 23 laps ago, and he's made his way all the way to the front, but this isn't over. Kell has Butcher and Nicholls and Churgwin. First 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Focus, Astra and BMW fighting for the lead as Kell now tries to make a break, whereas further back it looks as though Scott Mitchell's pressure and Luke Mitchell's pressure have finally gotten the better of Callum Wilson.
Right, on to the 24th and final lap we go. It's been a top gear from the rear effort from Dan Kell. Look at the gap he's got It looks like Slattery's got a penalty in the final throws of this race. It was a bit... Callum Wilson was used like a ping-pong ball on a paddle, courtesy of Luke Mitchell just then. But Dan Kell, top gear from the rear. He is literally 3 corners away from taking his first victory of the season, I believe. And what's with it, that becomes our 5th different winner in as many different races here this season so far. I'm just going to double check that. But Dan Kell comes out of Clark Curve and he's going to take the checkered. Kell from the back to the front wins the race by 1.6 seconds. Jack Nicholls edges out Matthew Churgwin by fractions to say 3rd, ahead of Ben Willis from Drake Racing. Lewis McGlade in 6th. There's Chris Shepherd. Would have gone up into the top 10, maybe a little bit higher. He finishes 16th, 2 positions behind teammate Ryan Elliott, who was hit with a penalty which looked to be in game. John Waldridge having a bit of a dusty moment there coming through Clark Curve, but Dan Kell wins the race convincingly by his absolutely no quarter given respite throughout that 24-lap race. So he takes the victory by 1.3 seconds ahead of Chris Butcher. Jack Nicholls 3/10 behind. So Nicholls could have been on the verge of maybe even getting a victory this time around. So it is 5 different winners from 5 different races. Matthew Churgwin, Ben Willis ran at the top 5. Lewis McGlade, another solid finish. I know it would have been. It's a 2 top 6 finishes, a 3rd in race 1, a 6th in race 2. Phil Morby, Scott and Luke Mitchell with Callum Wilson rounding out the top 10 positions. Another successful race for E-Team Brit White's James Lambert, Luke Maguire, Cameron Brewster, Ryan Elliott and Jordan Hearn ran at the top 15. Follow that up with Chris Shepherd, Aidan Millward, Max Spooner, Scott Sovic and John Waldridge rounding at the top 20. Daniel Hyde in 21st ahead of Daniel Slattery, James Like, Toby Davis, whose race pretty much was turned upside down, finished 24th ahead of E-Team Brit Blues, Michael Tyler with the DNF from both Chaz Draycott and E-Team Brit White's Bradley Brockies. Well, Phil, plenty of more door-rubbing action still to go, isn't there?
You'd almost think they're listening to. It's like, oh yeah, we've had a pretty quiet first race. Let's up the ante and give the guys in the comment box something to talk about. Thank you, gentlemen. That was absolutely brilliant. If you could just raise that bar a little bit more for race 3, just take a breath. Because, wow, they really went for it that time. More contact, more hard racing. But for me, the point of that is Dan Kell's win. You know, he started at the back of the grid, along with several other drivers who either joined late for race 2 or had suffered difficulties in race 1. And it proves that, you know, if you're at the back of the grid in this series, you can still get to the front. You can still fight your way through. You can still push hard and get the plaudits, get the, you know, score the points at the end of the day. So well done to Dan Kell, obviously, on taking that win. An absolute car through the field. There were some very questionable moves, as we always have in TCUK, but at the same time, some cracking racing. What I will say is that while EastEnders has Phil and Grant Mitchell, VMO TCK's got Luke and Scott Mitchell definitely working together and pushing the heat on Callum Wilson, who did very, very well to withstand their pressure until right at the end of the race. And I don't think that's the last time that we're going to see the brothers Mitchell pushing their weight around in this series. It's good fun to see. Lots of cracking racing in that one. And yeah, just trying to take a breath. I'm rather glad of the break between this and race 3, to be honest.
Yes, indeed. So if you haven't already, you can... if you have not done so far and you've enjoyed what you've seen, well, if you want to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and also hit the notification bell, which will tell you whenever we go live for the next few rounds of this championship, which takes us all the way through. So just a brief recap of what we have had so far this particular race evening. So Ryan Elliott took pole position, took the race 1 victory, but it was Dan Kell who started from 25th on the grid. We had a total of 27 cars. I think if there was ever a forever forward, You ever remember that in BTCC, Phil?
Yeah.
That was a
It still
separate
carries
award
on. Yeah.
Still carries on to this very day. Maybe we should start doing one like that, but there's no prizes given. But effectively, for my money, Dan Kell did an absolutely blistering job. I mean, Chris Butcher, he tried to hang on, but Dan Kell was not going to be denied.
No, definitely not. Very, very, very talented drive there, and showing how it can be done. And again, as we said before, Zancho Sim Sport, they can't be counted out with their drivers. They are definitely two of the hardest pushing drivers on the grid, and as we saw, those Ford Focuses are well in the mix, whether at the front with Lewis McGlade or whether at the rear with Dan Kell carving his way through the field. Great to see.
Indeed. Well, quite an interesting statistic I've just seen through the results. Dan Kell, you're not going to believe this, Phil. The top climber in the first race tonight was James Like. He did half the positional overtakes that Dan Kell just did. So 24
Wow.
for Dan Kell in race 2, James Like 12 in race 1. Top speeds in the respective races. Phil Morby in his Ford Focus, 216 kilometers an hour in race 1. Scott Mitchell, 215.4 kilometers an hour top speed in race 2. Best consistency in both races. Well, no surprise here. Ryan Elliott with a ratio, with a score of 99.66%. Jordan Hearn, 99.36. Well, that just shows how consistent you need to be around here at Brands Hatch. But we're going to go to a brief commercial break here on VMO TCUK round 2 as we await round 3 here at Brands Hatch. 2 races down, 1 more to go. It's been an enthralling night of action here for the second round of the 2021 VMO TCUK Championship here in West Kingsdown in Kent, not too far off of the Dartford crossing, with Alex Goldschmidt and Phil Kinch back with you once more. Phil, it's now time for our reverse grid race. This one always puts the cat amongst the proverbial pigeons.
I'm just going to throw the hand grenade in the shed and just lead them to it, because this is where it kicks off. This is where everything just goes absolutely nuts. It's the last race of the evening. It's the reverse grid race. Yeah, this is, if we haven't had enough excitement already from the first 2 races this evening, race 3 is going to be an absolute barnstormer, and I am looking forward to this one just ending the evening with a bang. You know, the guys put on a great race last time out in race 2. This is just going to be even more intense, more racy, more panels. I think they're going to be traded and lots of paint being swapped by the end of this one. So yes, definitely looking forward to the final race of the evening.
Yes, indeed. And yeah, I just think it's going to be a case of who is going to come out on top. Are we going to have 6 winners from 6 different races here at Brands Hatch and also Donington Park? Now, 9 drivers again using the option tyre. Scott Sovic, Callum Wilson, Michael Tyler, Bradley Brockies, Jordan Hearn, Jack Nichols, Cameron Brewster, Lewis McGlade, Dan Kell and Luke Maguire. Now, sometimes it's always best to save the best till last, and race 3 at every single race night Virtual Motorsport Online always seems to be a bit of a belter.
Can't see any reason for this being different tonight. Absolutely, race 3 is always the one that has us trying to take a breath where we can, because the guys just raise the bar and push that a little bit harder. It's the final chance for them to score points tonight for a fortnight before we go on to the next round after here. And basically, yeah, it's, you know, it's the final option they've got. They've had, for those that haven't had the option tyres, they've got them now. For those that have, they've got that out of the way. They've either had the pain or the benefit of it. Final chance to get the car set as it needs to be, and just to push that last bit and get every little piece out of the car that you can, the tyres, and also deal with the conditions to try and score the best points you can for the end of the evening.
Yeah, looks like we are almost set and ready to go racing for one final time here tonight before we head to our next venue in just 2 weeks' time, which will be Silverstone International on the 11th of August, which will be rounds 7, 8 and 9 if you were looking at it from a BTCC perspective, but it's 10 rounds, 3 races per event itself, so races 1, 2 or 3 of round 3. And Brands Hatch, always steeped in folklore. It was actually the first circuit I visited back in the mid-1980s, and unfortunately now I'm showing my age as well, aren't I, Phil? I am indeed. I am indeed. Yes, I do that every time before Phil utters some worms, whether he can get his teeth back in, and that's not happened so far this season.
No, loose set teeth. They're doing rather well.
Yes, that you've used the Fixodent, have you, this time properly, mate?
Yes. Yeah, proper Ultra Fixodent has gone in with this set. Hence the reason why I can say Sancho Sim Sport without any issues this time.
Yes, you've had plenty of practice. Looks like we are about to get things underway, so let's see if we can head trackside the circuit itself. And there we go. And it is Phil Morby that ended up being selected. It was the driver that finished in 7th position. So let's have a look at the grid. Phil Morby versus Lewis McGlade on the front row. It's an all-forward focus front row itself. Then add a pair of BMWs to the mix. Ben Willis and Matthew Churgwin round out the top 2 rows. Jack Nichols and Chris Butcher, row 3. Dan Kell and Scott Mitchell, row 4. Next up, it's Callum Wilson who completes the top 10. James Lambert in 11th, ahead of Luke Maguire, Cameron Brewster, Ryan Elliott, Jordan Hearn, Chris Shepherd rounding out the top 16 positions. And we look at who's completing the top 20, the who's who, so to speak. Aidan Millward, 17th. Max Spooner, 18th. Scott Sovic, 19th. And John Wooldridge completing the top 20. So again, for the second race in a row, 27 drivers. So 21st, it's the Cadan Casual Apex MG, number 2 of Daniel Hyde. The Norfolk Endpoints Racing Honda Civic, number 24 of Daniel Slattery. James Like in the Revolution Sim Racing, number 11 Subaru. Toby Davis, watch out for him, because he could do exactly what Dan Kell did in race number 2 in the 34 THR Astra. Michael Tyler in the 70 E-Team Brit Blue Focus. Chaz Draycott on the CDM with Sancho number 10 Honda, and the E-Team Brit White 105 BMW 330i M Sports of Bradley Brockies brings up the rear, as the 27 cars now in situ, waiting for the lights to go out. We might very shortly be getting things underway for the third and final time. A total of 72 laps will be completed, as a little bit of a spike there, I think, from Lewis McGlade. The car just shot forward and went back into its grid position. So looks like we've gotten things underway. Good start by Lewis McGlade, and the 2 BMWs looking to get their way past. And there's someone already being turned around into the barriers before they've even gotten to Paddock Hill Bend, and someone has pulled the pin on the grenade, Phil. It wasn't you, it was somebody else a little bit further down the order, and threw it behind them, and all of a sudden it all kicks off.
It has. Unfortunately, Scott Mitchell in the Kings Dealer Racing Astra that's taken the wall on the Brabham Straight, as we see Jack Nicholls going sideways through Paddock Hill Bend. There's even, it looks like a bumper's been thrown up. Someone's opened a boot on one of the BMWs coming down the Cooper Straight. So it's all action, all hands on board.
It's all hands on deck. Max Spooner's just been turned around going through the Exeter Surtees. There's more action going through Clark Curve. The reverse grid races. So that's the numbers decided between 6 and 12 who end up on pole position. And what on God's green earth has happened here? It's like someone's just thrown a Russian ICBM at the circuit and gone, yep, you take a hit, you take a hit, you end up in the wall. It's like no one is safe here in the Garden of England.
No, definitely not. They're all going for it already. With race 3, like we said, reverse grid race, anything can happen, and it always does, and so far it definitely is. As we're riding on board with race 1 winner Ryan Elliott, who's getting very sideways as he pushes towards trying to get past Jack Nicholls, who himself in turn is trying to get through, trying to get past Stephen Benwell. It's not through. Although the Astra has got on the inside of the BMW on the run to Paddock Hill Bend. Lewis McGlade sets the fastest lap. Can Nicholls pull the move off? It looks so he has. 2 wheels on the curb. He's just about managed to get past, and Elliott is looking to try and capitalise and follow the Astra through as they go into Druids. This contact! No! Nicholls is off!
Jack Nicholls has just been rudely bumped off the circuit there, I think. Well, that's probably words to that effect if you want to be politically correct. But let's have a look here. And it's, this is from earlier. Yeah, so Mitchell, just keep watching here. That's Max Spooner. He gets turned around, and there is the number 39. That is Cameron. As Cameron Brewster gets the turn around, and
kicked off on the first lap.
It was carnage. Chris Butcher now closing in on Phil Morby. Lewis McGlade now leading the way by well over 1.1 seconds as they go through Druids. We're on lap number 4 out of 24. And Butcher, if he can quickly get past Morby, then he can start closing in. Now Butcher has got that car set up on a 9pence, and he is just we've seen it before that when he goes for it, he doesn't half do that in style, does he? As there goes the door slightly open by Morby, but Butcher decides to slot in behind, going on to the Brabham Straight from Clark Curve, and that has given a perfect opportunity. Lewis McGlade is pulling away. Now here's going to be what happened between... so Spooner gets a touch from Sovic. The Cadan Casual Apex car. Now, who on earth is that? That is Jordan Hearn, and he's the one that's instigated, I think, with a little bit of bumping and running. with Scott Sovic, and then all of a sudden, Hearns had nowhere to go, and he's turned Spooner around unintentionally there, I think, judging by the way that unfolded. Chris Butcher now trying to get past Phil Morby, and Morby is not allowing him to do so. Could it be 6 from 6? But at the moment, McGlade has a 2.7 second advantage as old Chaz Draycott getting a bit feisty there. That looks to be with more than likely Jordan Hearn. You go on board with the number 10 Honda Civic. Chaz Draycott running as a privateer. So one of the many drivers, about 7 of them, as Hearn goes a little bit wide. Draycott just keeps it nice and tight on the apex, allows the car to drift to the left-hand side before the right-hander here at Druids. Down the hill they go. Now the Honda FK2, Phil, in BTCC days was not just used as a hatchback, but also as an estate when Matt Neal and Gordon Shedden had the bright white and red Team Dynamics Honda Civic. Because, oh, look at this, Ryan Elliott getting his nose stuck in, and he's trying to go toe-to-toe with Butcher. Oh, there's some bad blood bubbling under the scenes there in the cauldron.
Yes, definitely. This is going to kick off as we see him go too wide. Butcher defending the inside from Elliott, as meanwhile Morby tries to stay ahead. Now, Phil Morby's had some good pace in the first 2 races today, so it's not a surprise that Butcher... Oh, is this contact? He's hit the back of Morby, but they've managed to hold it.
That was a domino effect there, I think. Oh, and there's more dramas here. This is for more than likely...
Face full of Astra, sorry.
Yeah, that's Astra. That's Maguire actually battling away. Luke Mitchell has got, that is going to be Chris Shepherd. Aidan Millward has got the ringside seat just behind. And behind them, that is the number 55 of Scott Sovic. But Lewis McGlade looking to make it 6 different winners in as many races. Anyone might remember that particular Formula 1 season? Well, we're going to hopefully do something quite similar here in VMO TCUK. And it's just like, what happened was that Ryan Elliott, if you noticed earlier on in that move, he actually outbraked himself. He put the brakes on hard. The back end of the Honda stepped out. He tagged the back of Butcher, and then all of a sudden Butcher was sort of cannonballed into Morby. I'd like to see a replay of that if we can get one, but you can just see that there is Ben Willis closing in on them, and then you've got Matthew Churgwin being hunted by Dan Kell, of all people, and Butcher is still trying. Butcher's just like absolutely not wanting anything to happen. There goes Chris Shepherd, who he's gone onto the kitty litter on the top part of Paddock Hill Bend, and Aidan Millward now getting an opportunity to just keep that door sort of wedged open. The number 67 from option 13 Simsport tries to get the job done, gets the job done, actually powers past before they even hit the apex at Graham Hill Bend. Aidan Millward having a better time around this particular occasion.
Look at the trainer cars we've got behind Phil Morby. He's just under 4 seconds behind the leader, Lewis McGlade, who's gone off into the distance. You've got places 2nd to 13th, line astern, as Elliott tries to go down the inside of Butcher this time. Butcher's defending, and there's a bit of hard braking there, or there's a bit of contact as well. But Elliott is pushing to try and get past Butcher. In the meantime, Morby is doing a fantastic defence for 2nd place, and everyone is just queuing up behind him, fighting, tripping over each other, trying to get through. Now it looks as though Elliott's finally got the move done on Butcher, so he's up to 3rd place, whereas further back Daniel Hyde is being kept busy with where have we gone? The Subaru and the BMW.
Yeah, that's John Waldridge and Bradley. No, that's not Bradley Brockies. That's actually James Lambert, who's had a bit of a disastrous race. Running in the top 15 in the mid-pack. Chris Butcher now has been passed by Ryan Elliott. So 2nd and 3rd now not in Butcher's grasp any longer at all. As Elliott runs it wide. That was really wide coming out of Paddock Hill Bend. But credit to the 66 where it is due that he kept his foot planted in on the throttle, and the back end did not break traction. He held on to it. He must have done some corrective opposite lock magicianry right there. Max Spooner has called it a night, unfortunately. That MG was significantly damaged after the first lap. And so his evening comes to an abrupt end. We are at the halfway point pretty much of this race. And look at the quartet ahead of Matthew Churgwin. There's now Butcher looking to go up the inside of Elliott. This could get rather close and personal. Oh, they do touch. Oh, and it's a little bit of two can play at that game between them. And that now has given the opportunity. We now ride on board with Matthew Churgwin, and just behind him he's got Dan Kell, who is stuck and not really going anywhere. It's been a bit of a stalemate between these two. There's Callum Wilson just behind in the 404 BMW, running at the top 8. You can just see the amount of wallop of curve that they take, as now Morby nearly left the door open all and sundry for Elliott to get through. That could have also given the window of opportunity for Butcher and Willis. Willis looking towards the outside, going into Paddock Hill Bend, looking to slot it neatly towards the inside. That was a bit messy there for Chris Butcher, as the front end tried to break traction. The car sort of wobbled from side to side, but he kept it all together and made it count. Lap number 13 out of 24. Ryan Elliott looking for the move up the inside. He goes door panel to door panel. Little bit of a rub between him and Phil Morby, and there goes Chris Butcher on the run down the Cooper Straight into Surtees. He's slotted in front of the Focus, and he has got third place. And let's just see, looks like the floodgates are starting to open, and if Phil Morby is not careful, they are going to open all and sundry, and at the click of a fingers.
He's done a fantastic job to get halfway through the race, holding off as best he could, but unfortunately it's been very clear from early on.
Sideways from Willis. No, there wasn't really a touch. It was the biggest sideways moment I think we've seen at Paddock Hill. And there's Churgwin right on the back bumper of his drag racing teammate in the 85. There's Luke Mitchell battling away. That is with Luke Maguire for what is 9th on the road. And now there has been a massive drama. One of the Mitchells has got a penalty. So I would imagine, now let's just see, that's Luke Mitchell just there. Down in 10th position, it's Ben Willis. Ben Willis had the drama just then. Let's have a look at the replay. So this is into Paddock. He goes sideways. So Ben Willis from drag racing. Just look. Just keep watching. No contact. He kept it held. That was within 6 inches of the right rear quarter panel, and Willis kept it held. Bravo, sir. I doff my cap to thee, Ben Willis of drag racing.
Oh yes, definitely fantastic stuff there. I take it back. No contact, although it looked incredibly close from the views that we were seeing. As we're running with Luke Mitchell in the King's Dealer Racing Astra at the moment, is running just behind Luke Maguire in the THR, whilst Farah's up. Oh look, we've got Dan Kell. He's done it again. He's flying through the field, and he's now chasing down Phil Morby. This is what we had in race 1, whilst Lewis McGlade, his teammate, is out front. We've got Kell chasing down Morby, and also who's hunting Butcher. And Butcher's very sideways, I've noticed, out of Paddock Hill Bend on the run to Druids now. That's the last couple of laps it's been that way, so whether that's a tyre or a setup thing maybe. But Morby, he's still got his speed, he's defending, or he slid nicely out of Paddock Hill, out of Graham Hill, sorry, and that's allowed Kell to close up as we come into the final part of the lap now. Can he try and do the inside here? Morby's been taking a wide line on the exit as we come onto the start-finish straight. He's managed to tighten up a little bit this time, but Kell definitely has the run. He's as close as he's going to get to him. He's definitely in the slipstream and showing his nose to his fellow Ford Focus competitor as we come into Paddock Hill now. And you know, it's a slightly wider entry. Morby wiggles slightly as we return to running on board with Scott Mitchell this time, who's got Chaz Draycott behind him in 15th place. So Chaz has made a better job of getting through the field this time. Mitchell locks the rear wheel through Druids, and Draycott is right inside. You can see, I love this camera angle, by the way. Absolutely brilliant stuff on board from the Astra. And Draycott is closing right in on Mitchell and bringing Jordan Hearn with him, as we move back further up and find Dan Kell is absolutely hunting now. In fact, he looks as though he's got the overlap. Has he got it this time? He has. He's alongside Phil Morby. Morby tries to close down the gap as they go over the start-finish line and manages to stay in front but that's just going to allow Kell a chance to see if he can try and go through into Paddock Hill Bend. Can he get it into the turn? He's going for it. He's going for a late lunge. It looks like it. He's got part alongside Morby even. But get him ahead of himself. Get into Druids. Can he complete the move? He does. And Morby slides in with a bit of contact behind, a little bit of shove, just to let him know that he's there. And that allows Dan Kell up to 4th place. Again, another sterling drive from him. As meanwhile, we go back to Chaz Draycott, who looks like he's lining up Scott Mitchell for 14th place. Chaz doing a great job in the Honda, and he's going. In fact, it looks as though Mitchell's had an issue. So whether he's had something out of Graham Hill, but he's definitely lost 2 places there.
That was a rather sudden slowdown from Scott Mitchell. So whether it's hardware or software issues, but Chaz Draycott now in 14th position. Daniel Slattery has also retired. So we've had 3 so far: Max Spooner, John Waldridge and Daniel Slattery. So it's going to be rather interesting how things proceed at the front, which just goes to show if you are out in front, and you are out in front by a country mile, your name right now just so happens to be Lewis McGlade from Zancho Simsport, a lead of nearly 6.5 seconds heading into the last 6 laps of this race. We're going to complete lap number 20 very shortly, so 5 laps to go. Lewis McGlade 7.0 seconds ahead of Ryan Elliott. Chris Butcher is being hounded once again. Dan Kell at his heels like a little snappy biting Yorkshire Terrier once again. These two, there is definitely that emergence of that rivalry once again. You put these two together, Phil, you get fireworks as a direct result.
Yep, and we're in race 3, the last race of the day. So it's definitely going to be fireworks on top of the ones we've had already. As we see Matthew Churgwin in 6th place. Looks as though he's trying to hold off fellow BMW driver Callum Wilson in the privateer entry. And Luke Maguire, Luke Mitchell and Ben Willis aren't far behind in close company there.
So we head back to the battle for what is 3rd on the road. Whereas Kell following Butcher. It's lap number 22. Well, it's going to be 4 laps to go, including this one. Dan Kell looking to get another top 3 finish. He won race 2 convincingly, did a top gear from the rear, and now he's fighting once again with his biggest championship rival, last year's defending champion, who's running the number 1 instead of the normal 65 that we see on his car. We saw on his car last season, but you can just see, look how close Kell is to Butcher, Phil. Yeah, that was nigh on, more than up close and personal right there and then.
Absolutely, it's getting to the point pretty soon you might find a 4 badge stuck in the back of the Astra as Kell pushes extremely hard. He's really harrying Butcher. These two have got plenty of history between them from last season, as it looks as though there's a slight nudge, maybe indefinitely. The two of them are tied together. Kell is looking for a way past, Butcher defending as we go into Druids. Morby in close contact. He's not far behind to capitalise if these two have a mistake and something happens between them, as though Kell goes for the inside at Paddock Hill. Keeps Butcher wide on the run out of it down the Cooper Straight, and Butcher's slightly ahead. He's just maintaining that tiny gap, but it is obvious that Kell has got the bit between his teeth and he wants to take 3rd place away from Butcher. Absolutely cracking stuff. It is just amazing what Kell's been able to put out from race 2, and race 3 is looking just as good, if not better, as they come over the line to lap 23, and he's looking at the outside of Paddock Hill. He's looking to the inside as Butcher has a slide on the way in and catches the curb. Kell is just trying to find a gap. He looks to the right hand side as they come up to Druids. Butcher defends as you'd expect him to, and they're coming up to lap traffic now as well, one of the Team Brit focuses on the way down to Paddock Hill Bend now, so this is going to make it even more difficult.
We've had another DNF, unfortunately. Scott Mitchell has DNF'd rather suddenly on lap number 17, but this time around Lewis McGlade will go onto the 24th. Oh, and Jack Nichols down in 16th has got a penalty. His final race of the day has gone really badly indeed, but Lewis McGlade leading the way. Butcher and Kell back at loggerheads. Kell looks to the outside, but there is your race leader, Lewis McGlade, that has kept his nose clean. Well, whereas Butcher is trying to swipe off the front of Kells in the process, and that's allowing Phil Morby to come into the party. Matthew Churgwin is in there, Callum Wilson, Luke Maguire, Ben Willis, and Chris Shepherd rounding out the top 10. And whilst this battle is raging on, Lewis McGlade is coming round towards taking his first victory. It is 6 different winners from 6 races. Lewis McGlade wins race 3 here at Brands Hatch, and it's a double bubble tonight for Dan Kell and Lewis McGlade, because Zancho have taken 2 victories tonight. Elliott finishes behind McGlade for second position. Chris Butcher manages to edge out at the flag Dan Kell for third place. Phil Morby, Matthew Churgwin, Callum Wilson, Luke Maguire. There was no gap between third Phil and 8th that exceeded more than about 0.7 of a second at the finish.
No, absolutely tied together. It's brilliant stuff to see. Absolutely brilliant stuff to see.
So we did have a total of 4 retirements, but we'll go through the finishing order for that. It was Lewis McGlade that won by well over 3 and a bit seconds, ahead of Ryan Elliott, our race 1 winner from tonight. Chris Butcher in third, our race 2 finishing fractionally ahead of Dan Kell, our race 2 victor from tonight. Phil Morby, close but no cigar for the number 14 Focus. Matthew Churgwin, again showing great consistency and head and shoulders the best of the drag racing trio so far here, as we've seen this season. A good round out to the evening's proceedings for Callum Wilson in 7th, Luke Maguire in 8th, Ben Willis and Chris Shepherd ran at the top 10. Then we look at the rest of the top 19 drivers. Aidan Millward at 11th, Luke Mitchell in 12th, Scott Sovic, Chaz Draycott takes 14th in the first race that he's fully completed, having a DNF in the first race. Jordan Hearn in 15th ahead of Toby Davis, Cameron Brewster, Jack Nichols, James Lambert, and James Lambert and Bradley Brockies, it says there. But realistically, 3 different winners from 3 different races. You can see the rest of those drivers on your screens there. Daniel Hyde, James Like, Michael Tyler, Scott Mitchell, Daniel Slattery, John Waldridge and Max Spooner. Phil, the 3 races have delivered and then some, haven't they?
Absolutely. 3 fantastic races this evening on the Indy circuit of Brands Hatch. Exactly what we come to expect and love and adore about VMO TCUK. And it's been fantastic to be able to come back and commentate on these 3 races this evening. Really looking forward to the season, as we've had 6 winners from 6 races. And once again, as it goes to show, you can come from the back of the grid, you can come to the front of the grid, you can win a race, you'll get pressured, you'll get pushed, you will earn every single point as best you will. And I can't see why we can't have 9 from 9. I'm going to even make a bet when we go to Silverstone in a fortnight's time. It's been absolutely fantastic racing this evening.
Well, we've got a couple of drivers waiting to come in for interviews, so let's bring the first one in. First of all, let's bring in the reigning and defending champion. He's been at the sharp end of the grid. Let's bring in Chris Butcher. Chris, good evening. That was a very, very challenging evening in all 3 races for you, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was so competitive. And I had a lot of weight for all 3 races, so it was so tough to keep people behind, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, the battles that you were having with the likes of I think you and Ryan Elliott definitely have emerged with the big old rivalry. I mean, we saw the one with Dan Kell last season, and now Ryan Elliott's decided to add a bit of fuel to the fire. He's put paraffin on the barbecue, isn't he?
Oh, rubbing's racing, as they say. But no, we had a chat about the race 2 incident, and to be honest, I think we both agreed that Ryan sort of moved to the left whilst he'd not quite cleared my car, and we all saw what happened. But it's all part and parcel of hard racing, and there's no hard feelings, and yeah, it worked out well for me in the end, I guess.
That's really good to hear. Now, obviously, a couple of weeks' time, we head to Silverstone International. You're not going to be the one with the full 75 kilos. I bet that must be a bit of a blessing in disguise for you, but also a bit of a sigh of relief at the same time.
I think I will be the one with the 75 kilos, actually, because it's based on championship position. So
right, okay.
So yes, for race 1, I think I will have the full 75 kilos. So that's going to be hard work, because it's not very good for the old straight line speed.
But in the twisty stuff, it seems like the Astra's very well planted. I mean, we saw last season with you when you were still with Smile Power Racing before switching to THR. The Astra with ballast can be a handful on top speed, as you said, but in the corners, it can be rather mighty if you get that weight distribution, that centre of gravity just right.
Yeah, I think so. And over last season and then back into this season with Toby and the guys at THR, we've worked really, really hard on the setup. We've put a lot of laps in, so it's a good all rounder. I think we might have a little bit to find on tyre wear. Like I was struggling towards the end of the races, and Dan Kell had more weight than me and was faster than me at the end. So there's a little bit of work to do there, but all round it's not too bad.
Well, Chris, congratulations on a solid amount of points tonight. Well done. We'll see you in a couple of weeks' time at Silverstone.
Thanks very much.
So, big thank you there to Chris Butcher. Phil, I'll hand over to you to have a chat with one of our Subaru drivers, Mr. Scott Sovic.
Hi Scott, how's this evening gone? Considering you've had 3 challenging races to try and cope with.
Well, I think race 1 was a write-off from the minute I went on the grid, considering I started on the wrong tyres by mistake, but got that corrected, ended up a lap down after that, but race 1 was much to forget, to be honest. Race 2, much the same really. I'm a bit disappointed not to get away from race 2 with points. Quite frankly, I had quite good pace on the primes with and the Subaru is a good car. That's it's quite, especially on the starts. Like race 2 and race 3, I was acing the starts and it just went away from me immediately because I was being held up. It's quite the deadlock at the start of each race here. But I think race 3 was probably the best out of the 3, considering I actually managed to get into the points.
And you've swapped, like you say, you're in the Subaru this season. Last season, you're in the Vauxhall Astra. So what have you had to try and learn over the off-season about the Subaru that's different? You've gone from front-wheel drive to rear-wheel drive, 2 completely different cars. So what have you had to try and adapt to and try and work setup-wise to make sure, you're in as best position as possible?
Well, it's, they're 2 completely different beasts. The Astra's a very understeery car that's, it sticks to the line quite well, whereas the Subaru definitely has a tendency to get a bit more slidey on the rear. Although I've got to say, the pro for the Subaru is that at least being a rear-wheel drive, it has the advantage with tyre wear. So it's definitely been a different kind of challenge, but it's definitely an enjoyable one.
Good. And obviously, with keeping that in mind, tyre wear and the rear-wheel drive factor, how do you think that's going to work out for you when it comes to racing at the Silverstone International Circuit in a couple of weeks' time?
I think the Subaru might be a bit down on straight line speed, so considering that's quite a top speed heavy track, I think it's definitely going to be challenging to get the most out of the car. But considering I was able to get a podium in the first round in Donington, I think there's definitely baseline in the car, and hopefully I can get more of it out at a track that I actually feel a bit more comfortable on, especially considering I wasn't able to test get into the groove properly on this track as well. So I think we might be looking for maybe a top 10 or a couple of top 10s at least in the first 2 races.
So that's brilliant. Well, thanks for your time, Scott. That's been great.
Yeah.
Well, good to hear from both Chris Butcher and Scott Sovic. But Phil, looking back over tonight's proceedings, 3 different winners. Ryan Elliott taking pole in the first race and winning by a country mile. Dan Kell doing a top gear from the rear. And it was 2 for 2 for Zancho Simsport, courtesy of Lewis McGlade. Silverstone International, I think we've got more of this to come, and I think the intensity is going to be even higher than what we saw tonight.
I think, yes, the bar is definitely going to be raised. Silverstone International on the 11th of August. Thoroughly looking forward to that one. Like I say, the guys have really delivered tonight in all three races. We've had close racing, hard racing. The bar has just been increased with each race as well. Race 1 seems quite quiet now compared to races 2 and 3. And as we saw last year, Silverstone International provided a lot of overtaking of opportunities, especially with the high speeds of the Hangar Straight and the start-finish straight as well. So it's, we are starting a journey again that is going to continue to get better and better, and I'm looking forward to that.
Well, that really wraps things up here for round 2 of the 2021 Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Series here at Brands Hatch. So we head to just outside of Towcester, Silverstone International Circuit, for the next 3 races for round 3, just a couple of weeks' time. Big thank you to our broadcast director, Mike Yao. This broadcast has been brought in partnership with Sim Sports Solutions. And on behalf of Phil Kinch and myself, Alex Goldschmidt, thank you very much for watching. We'll be back with more Tin Top shenanigans in just 2 weeks' time. Good night.